As an active comic reader, I have read my fair share of good, decent, great, and even mediocre comic book stories. My all-time favorite character to read is Thor, and ironically enough, my favorite story that was ever written is Thor God of Thunder by Jason Aaron. It gave us an incredible story spanning over centuries with an incredibly well-written villain that took 3 different versions of Thor to even come close to beating him, and it was still a very close fight. That same story gave us Old King Thor stopping the arrival of Galactus long after Earth has been lifeless and barren, and the dialogue between Thor and Galactus alone is enough to solidify why the story is my all-time favorite. Jason Aaron is a very notable writer for Marvel Comics as well. He's done Thor, Mighty Thor, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, Avengers, Thanos Rising, the current Punisher run, Original Sin. I mean, this guy has a lot of good stuff under his belt. So when I went to the local comic book store and saw Avengers 1 million BC that was written by Jason Aaron and stated on the front, revealed the Phoenix's connection to the birth of Thor, I did not hesitate to buy it. I mean, as one of my favorite writers talking about the history of my favorite character to read, I mean, this has to be good, right? And look at the front cover. I mean, you have Odin, Phoenix, Iron Fist, Ghost Rider, Agamotto the Sorcerer Supreme, Black Panther, and I thought this was Red Hulk, but it turns out that Starbrand, which is still dope. So you have this lineup of heavy hitters and a story tied to how the Phoenix Force was tied to Thor's birth. It has to be an epic adventure story, right?
Nope, not in the slightest.
When people say that political agendas kind of bleed into comics and some are subtle and some not so much, this one I think baits people in with a grandiose idea to just give them a short story with no real conflicts and pretty poorly written characters. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of why this story was so disappointing. It all starts with a kiss between Laufey, King of the Frost Giants, and Hive, Mother of Infestation. They have an army of giant bugs that plague the earth and come close to wiping primitive humanity down to extinction. That's when this powerhouse Avengers team shows up and makes them all retreat, and Laufey swore a blood debt against the people and gods of Midgard. Okay, not a bad start. But this is where the poor writing really starts to show. The only black person on the team is Black Panther, so of course he's the first and really the only person to die in the story. Shocker. It's like a horror movie trope coming to the pages of comics. He got pretty disrespected when it comes to the writing because he literally didn't do anything and gets killed off. But Odin, I think, gets it worse because he was written like a college frat boy douchebag. Yep, the most badass Elder God Asgardian Allfather Odin was written like a horny, overly pushy douchewagon. After the hard-fought battle where Black Panther drops dead, Odin immediately turns to the Phoenix and wants to do the dirty. You know, shake the sheets, do the deed of darkness, get down, bumping uglies, putting bread in the oven, dip in the wick, explore the hidden valley. I think you know what I'm saying. Of course, Phoenix flares up in rage and yells about the disrespect for his fallen comrade, and Odin just says, "I have respect for my own passions, my lady." What a dick thing to say when one of your fellow Avengers that just aided you in a battle to protect Earth dies in that battle, and the first thing you want to do as soon as the fight is over is touch naughty bits with Phoenix. Now I get it. All young men hit a certain age and they know exactly what it feels like to feel like Hulk wanting to get your pickle tickled, but come on now. This is Odin. Phoenix apologizes to the Wakandan tribe and says if they need anything, she'll be there, and they just basically ask for her to forget about the tribe and they go their separate ways. So where King Odin should have plenty of experience to loss in battle and bringing comfort to those around him, he instead acts as a douche and Phoenix kind of takes that role. Alright. Long after the battle, the Avengers split up and go their separate ways. Odin then summons all of them to Asgard because, quote, he needs them all together for a day unlike any other. Phoenix comes flying in as fast as she could possibly go, and in desperation, she asks if they are under attack, and Odin says that he's gathered them there today for an even greater prize than protecting Midgard, and that is love. Odin summoned the Avengers without saying why for them to show up to just fast track a wedding between him and Phoenix. Are you serious? Of course, Phoenix just storms off faster than she arrived, just filled with anger and rage, and that caused the Avengers to never form again. I'd be mad at Odin too, but I'd be even more mad at Jason Aaron for writing the character of Odin like this. Phoenix realizes that she needs to be amongst the stars, but she can't leave Earth unless it has a worthy protector while she's gone. Fast forward a little bit to Gaia giving birth to Thor, and the Avengers do reassemble sort of for the first time since the fast track wedding and try to give comfort to her through the experience of giving birth. That's when Laufey appears to pay back his blood debt to Odin and kill Thor as a baby, and that's when Phoenix kind of shows up to the battlefield as well. Now we do another flashback to Lady Gaia and Phoenix talking about how they want to look after Earth and the beings that live on the planet. Phoenix basically takes this time to talk to Gaia into having a baby with Odin because then that baby will grow up to be the true protector of Earth, and that will free her to leave the planet in someone else's hands. Phoenix states that she knows that Odin has tried to get with Gaia because of course he has. He wants to bang pretty much anything and everything at this point. I'm surprised he passed the opportunity to go after Black Panther's corpse after Phoenix turned him down. But after quite a bit of back and forth with Gaia, she's able to convince her that having a baby with Odin is the best course of action she could take to protect the planet despite her not wanting anything to do with him. That's when Gaia states, "No, the thanks will be to you, my lady, whether anyone ever knows it or not, for this godchild should someday be born of the union of the goddess of Midgard and the Skyfather of Asgard. You will be just as much their mother as I." And before the flashback ends, they hug it out, and it states that all great love stories begin with a kiss. Like, okay, not only is it a little on the nose that Odin, the main male character of the story, is a douche, but now the two women are getting together and talking about how they must go be with him regardless of what they want to protect Earth. It makes Odin seem like such of a lesser character than he really is, while at the same time making it feel like a forced moment of two women overcoming the ridiculousness of men to do something good. But okay, back to present day, Laufey strikes baby Thor with a frozen sword to turn him into ice and kill him, so in an act of desperation, Phoenix flies him basically into orbit and breathed the fire of life back into him. And it states, "A child whose first breath was flame, flame and thunder in the skies of Earth." Odin shuns the Phoenix and tells her to never touch Thor again, and even though she tries to wait and watch Thor grow, every time the thunder cracks of Thor crying, it suddenly saddens her, so she leaves. And that's basically the end of the story. Now, why was this so disappointing? Well, for one, you have this powerhouse cast of characters on an Avengers team that do absolutely nothing. 2, you write Odin like a douchey teenager and not like the God King All-Father of Asgard. And 3, Marvel has lured people into the idea that Phoenix is much more tied to Thor's birth than we ever thought. Avengers number 42, Phoenix tells Thor that she has come to tell him everything about his birth and called him her son. Avengers 43, she states that it's not just Mother Earth or All-Father Odin's blood in his veins, but there's also some of her as well, and she calls him Phoenix son instead of Odin's son. Then later she tells him to come feel the fire of your mother's love. Switch to Thor 17 by Donny Cates, and Freya, the woman who he called mother growing up since she was the wife of Odin and she raised him, she even brings up the Phoenix. She states how she isn't Gaia or Phoenix, but she is still the woman who raised him, so she is his mother. End of story. So you have this buildup of the mystery of Thor's origin being tied to the Phoenix Force that spans over several different stories, and when it comes time to reveal the truth, you would expect something pretty amazing. You have an ancient Avengers team of powerhouses on the front cover, so it looks like it's going to be quite the epic tale. Only to find out that Odin is written poorly, Gaia and Phoenix wanted nothing to do with the douche father of Asgard, but must come together to be with him for the good of all who live on Earth. And the only real tie that Phoenix has to Thor in terms of being his real mother is that she convinced someone else to sleep with Odin, and she warms his frozen dead body back to life after he was attacked. Like, it might just be me, but this story has got to be one of the biggest disappointments that I've ever read. The build-up and mystery had me intrigued, and I refuse to believe that this story is the best that someone can come up with for how Phoenix was tied to the birth of Thor. Even if the story remained the same, but Odin was written more like himself, then it wouldn't be as bad. Like, I don't mind the idea of two female characters coming together to make a plan to birth a being with Odin to be the rightful protector of Earth. I don't mind that, but if you do that while at the same time making Odin look incredibly immature and idiotic unlike ever before, then that's just poor writing. All of that on top of the fact that the only real connection that Thor has to Phoenix is that she convinced Gaia to sleep with Odin and then reviving him after he was attacked is such a letdown, man. Even if it was as simple as the Phoenix Force tying herself to Gaia during the dirty with Odin, or maybe just a fragment of the Phoenix Force so that he was born with more power than he would normally, that could have been enough to make it more of an interesting connection than what was done here. Now, I have defended Jason Aaron before when people hate on stuff like the Mighty Thor because that story is actually pretty well written, but I can't defend this one. Gender politics aside, it's just a poorly written story about the conclusion of a plot point that has been built up over the last year or so. But what do you think about the new origin story and the way it was written? Maybe it's just me, so if you did like this new origin, let me know why, and maybe you can shine some light on this subject that kind of twists my opinion on it. Regardless, thank you so much for watching, leave a sub to show some love, and never forget to have a marvelous day, my dudes.